Welcome to Ask Sean, where I explore all sorts of questions about life, relationships, and being human. I'm Sean Slevin. I'm a licensed professional counselor and a licensed marriage and family therapist. And if you have a question that you would like to pose to me, you can go to www.asksean.org and you can submit your question anonymously. Today's question is actually not a question that's been sent in, but it's kind of a combination of questions that I have gotten repeatedly over the years. And I've kind of toyed with sort of how to sum it up, kind of how I'm thinking about it at the moment is, what is the most important choice that a therapist or a therapist in training or someone who's thinking about becoming a therapist, the most important choice that they can make. But even if you're not a therapist, even if you're not a mental health worker, I think that what I'm going to be talking about here actually would be probably very applicable to you. Like, I think the things that I get into really ultimately apply to everyone, even though I'm going to be talking about certain things that do relate particularly to the mental health field, mental health workers. But the underlying principles really are about being human and about becoming a healthier human. So I'm already kind of tipping my hand a little bit, but I'm going to kind of sort of walk through a little bit of a progression here. One of the things that people will ask me, I'll sometimes get approached by folks who are maybe still in their undergrad, or maybe they finished their undergrad, but they haven't yet gone to grad school. And so they'll write to me about, could they come and somehow volunteer as a way of trying to get experience, which is a great thought. They're thinking about getting into the counseling field and they want to get some experience somehow, which is unfortunately a bit tricky, with this field, because it's not like I can just have them sit in on a session or something, that's complicated ethically and whatnot in terms of people's privacy. And but then this also gets into questions about, like, okay, well, so what's the right grad program to go to, or that kind of thing. And certainly, grad school does matter. I'm really grateful for the program that I went through, even though I was angsty and frustrated during parts of it, which perhaps is normal. I don't know. I think it's normal for me. But yeah, there were a lot of really helpful things about the program I went through, and it was, I would say, very progressive in that it was engaging with topics that weren't yet very mainstream. Like, we were engaging with a lot of attachment research, Dan Siegel's interpersonal neurobiology, Sue Johnson's emotion-focused couples therapy, Richard Schwartz's internal family systems. We were engaging with all of those when way before those were kind of much more mainstream, like they've thankfully become. So all of that, was very formative, very helpful. But I wouldn't say that actually is the most important choice or the most important thing that somebody can do in preparation for becoming a therapist or as they're a therapist. And so then the question often becomes, well, okay, what about continuing ed? What continuing ed are you doing now? So for many fields, my field included, we have to do ongoing education every year as a way of just continuing to hone our skills and whatnot. And certainly that's valuable, and I'm grateful that that's the standard in my field. And I've done some really great continuing ed. I'm certified in something called sensory motor psychotherapy, which was a very very intense, very challenging, multi-year process. So it wasn't just like I did a weekend certification kind of thing, but I had to really invest a lot of time and energy and finances and making that happen. And it was really worth it. It was really solid. I really believe it's a really good model. It's about working with the body and how the body relates to our emotions, and lots of cool stuff there. But I also wouldn't say that was the most important thing, or in terms of finding the right, right, quote unquote, continuing ed. I think really the most important thing that any therapist can do that any would-be therapist, somebody who's wanting to become a therapist, and really I would say any human can do, is to work on your own growth and healing. Like, I think this is the most fundamental thing for all of us. Because if we're not becoming more human, well then kind of what is the point, right? Like, I mean, yeah, you can, crank out widgets or whatever and make money and survive, but we all want to be here more than for just surviving. We want to actually live. We want to actually thrive. But let me talk a little bit about why do I think about this, especially for mental health workers. I think what I'm saying is true for everybody, right? But I think is absolutely essential for anybody who wants to go into this kind of a helping field. So now, here in modern culture, we can be tempted to think that we're often tempted to reduce so many types of things into the role of technician. And so we can be tempted to do that with therapy, that, well, the therapist is just this technician who's kind of just, whatever, manipulating dials, so to speak, in clients' minds so that they'll feel better or something. But that's a really gross and inaccurate way of thinking about things. Like, really, the most important thing that I bring to my clients isn't my my grad training, my grad program. It isn't my continuing ed. Like, it's not the books that I read, the seminars that I go to. It's not my amazing beard, which can feel maybe a little stereotypically appropriate for therapy, for a therapist, for a male therapist. The most important thing that I bring is I bring myself as a fellow human being. A fellow human being who has some guidance to offer, but doesn't have all the answers. I'm in process too. I go to my own therapist a lot, and I've been in therapy for longer than I have been a therapist, longer than I've been doing therapy as a therapist. I've been a client. Like, who I am as a person and where I'm at in my journey and what I'm working on and working through, like, that is the foundation of everything else. I could have great skills, like, technically or whatever, like, it'd be like, okay, I should do this at this moment and this at that moment. But if I emotionally can't go there, if I'm not doing my own work, if I'm not facing my own demons, then it's all kind of a waste. I mean, you'd be better off with a good book, frankly, than coming to see me if I'm not doing my own work, if I'm not dealing with my own junk. Like, it's because we're not going to be able to go where you need to go. Like, that's the really interesting thing is, like, this is a field that you can't fake it. Like, if there's places I can't go emotionally, if I'm not comfortable with a certain emotion, and a client comes in who's needing help with that, like, my psyche's not going to be able to go there. And so I can't help their psyche go there. And so it's like this, how I am doing and how I'm working through my stuff it's so fundamental. And so even though I'm grateful for my grad program and I'm grateful for continuing ed and especially, sensory motor psychotherapy and whatnot, all of those things are only helpful to the degree that they are because I keep working through my own stuff. I keep facing my own demons. I keep facing my own fears and traumas and pains and shame, like all the places where I can get stuck and get tripped up and derailed and go off a cliff and whatnot, metaphorically. So yeah, it really, in a sense, the therapist is kind of the instrument, if you will, of therapy. Like it's who I am as a person, is, I don't know, the tool, if you will. I'm not sure if I quite like that, putting it that way, but it's like I've got to take care of my instrument, maybe especially if we want to think of like a musical instrument. And then here's the interesting thing. The client is also a musical instrument, right? Like, in a sense, we're coming together to try to co-create a new song, new music for this person's life, like, so it's not just, this is an interesting thing. It's not that, okay, I do all this inner work and I get all this training and okay, now I have all the answers and come to me and I'll tell you what to do. Well, like, again, if it's just a matter of telling you what to do, like, go get a good book. There's lots of great books out there by lots of great, authors, lots of wise people. Um, no, we need something more than that. We need relationship. We need an emotional, relational, embodied experience with another human being who is able to go there with us and help us go the places that feel impossible to go, but yet our soul is longing for us to go. And so this is why doing my own inner work is fundamental, right? But it's not then just that, like, I'm the guru on the mountaintop with, bestowing answers. It's even as I'm offering input and insight and like helping people make sense of things, which I do a lot of, right? Like, it's not just about the data of the concepts, it's about the relational experience. It's about that I'm not, disgusted with them about this struggle. It's them having the experience that I'm curious about, like, oh wow, I wonder what's happening, that your insides are coping with life in that particular way. It's that when they tell me something that they expect to be shocking, then I'm like, okay, well, so yeah, it sounds like that would be really painful, or how do you experience that? Like, what's, and it's not that, the interesting thing, it's not that I'm not fazed because have seen so many clients, so certainly that would contribute, but it's more fundamentally that, well, I've been so many scary places in my own heart that it's like, okay, so, this is your particular flavor of struggle. Like, so that's, I got my own flavors, and, like, we all got flavors. So let's talk about it. Let's figure it out together. Let's walk through it together. Let's craft a new song so you're not stuck in that old song that, like, is hurting you and hurting those around you. And so again, I hope you can feel the ways which all of this is predicated on. I've got to be doing my own inner work. I have to keep plodding along at doing my own inner work. And so for me, that means being in therapy. I'm not rigid about that. Like, I don't think it's about something that's under the umbrella of therapy, And I mean, let's be honest, right? Like, here I am, a therapist, saying the most important thing that everybody could do is get into therapy. I mean, that can seem a little self-serving, right? Like, be like, if I was a used car salesman, saying what everybody needs is cars from my sales lot, or something. I don't really care whether you get in therapy, and the point isn't about coming to have therapy with me. The point is, I want you to grow. I want you to be more human. Like, I want you to find people in your life who you sense are on the journey, who are doing their own work. They're wrestling with their stuff. People who feel real, people who can be honest about their struggles, about their pain, about their failures, and about their joys. Because let's be real, it's hard. It can be hard to be honest about all of those, depending on our backgrounds, depending on our wounding. It can be hard to be honest about the joyful things and as well as the hard things. So yeah, it's like, it's not about being in therapy per se. Therapy is kind of one of the main contexts in our culture currently where you can find this kind of help. But there's also, like, there's a range of, like, just because somebody's a therapist doesn't mean they're doing their own inner work, right? I mean, there's a whole range of quality there. I've had some really amazing therapy experiences over however many years it's been. And I've had some bad experiences too. And I've had clients who have had really good experiences and have had really bad experiences. So, because therapists are human too, and I'm a better therapist now than I was 10 years ago because I've had 10 years of growth. Not just that 10 years of continuing ed. Okay, that's great, but like, it's because of all the inner work and all the hard things that I've faced. It's like I have that much more capacity. I have that many more places I can go with clients, and much more insight into the nuances of certain types of pain and struggles and fears and shame. So it's not about therapy per se. It's about finding people whom you can journey with. Like, this is the most fundamental thing I think any of us can do in any vocation, no matter what our station in life is. Like, finding ways to grow, finding ways to become more whole, become more ourselves. And this is not easy. It's in some ways it's the hardest and yet most important, most noble thing any of us can do. And I think fundamentally, this is how we help the world heal, just as fellow humans, not even just as therapists, is by dealing with our own stuff. It's far easier to want to like point the finger at everyone around us and how they're not doing something right, how they're not being healthy, how they're being jerky in whatever ways. And we may be right about like things that would be good for those folks to change, like we might have some genuine insight there, but we can't change them. And being mad at them or trying to coerce them, not only does it not work, it just ends up perpetuating more of the same evil that we're speaking against. And so really at the end of the day, the thing that we can each do is we can change ourselves. And that changes everyone around us. I can't tell you how many times I've worked with one individual in a family, and over the years of working with them, I have watched at how their relationship with their partner, with their children, with their friends, sometimes their whole community is shifted and changed. Like it's phenomenal how much the growth and healing of one person can ripple out. It doesn't mean it's easy. It's so hard, and there can be so much pushback, and I'm not trying to kind of put a shiny bow on this, but it's better than the alternative, right? Because the alternative is like we just kind of give up and roll over and just exist. I was gonna say roll over and die, but it's like sort of metaphorically die. It's like we just give up on living, and we numb ourselves with endless consumption and distraction, of which we have no lack of. But inside we're dying. Inside we're not really living, and we can't really help one another, and we can't help ourselves. So yeah, this is, I guess, this is like my impassioned plea and encouragement and invitation to everyone. So certainly, if you are, if you're a mental health worker of some kind, if you are thinking about getting into the mental health field, becoming a counselor, becoming a therapist, and you're wondering, how can I prepare for that? Or you're already in grad school, or maybe you're fresh out of grad school and you're like, how can I develop myself? Work on do your inner work, get into therapy or something like therapy. And then, for everyone else, whatever your vocation is, I'm tempted to start like rattling off vocations, but it's like there's so many different that I'll leave a bazillion out. But really, for everyone else, like this is the same for you too. Like this is the best thing you can do for the world. Best thing you can do for your family, for your partner, for your children, if you have children, for your friends, for your workplace, is like work on your own healing. Like become a better you. And I don't mean that in the sense of like become better to somehow earn favor or like earn people's love, but become more whole, become more fully yourself. Like the world needs you to be you, not somebody else, not what, consumerism or whatever would tell you, or some Instagram or Facebook filter would tell you, but you, the unique you that there is only one of in all the freaking universe and all time and space. There's only one of each of us. Like no matter how many like lookalikes we might have, people who look similar to us, they still are not us. They still don't have our background of joys and sorrows, our wounding, our gifts, our unique expression of being a human being. And so, yeah, become more yourself. Find ways to become. Because it's worth it. Because you're worth it. It's worth it to become more alive, to become more whole. Yeah. Well, I will pause there. I feel like this is one of those topics that it's very dear to my heart. I guess it's kind of the passion that fuels me. So, but yeah, I hope this is some guidance for each of you, wherever you're at, whatever your journey is, and an encouragement to somehow find your way to people and community that are trying to live real lives, live authentically, and yeah, and just keep at it, keep putting one foot in front of the other. So until next time, peace be with you.